Comcast used to know its customers as numbers, not as people. But with advances in hardware, machine learning and artificial intelligence, and integrated software, all of that is changing. For Tech Republic in Louisville, Kentucky this week, I'm Dan Patterson with Tech Republic editorial director and ZDNet editor-in-chief Larry Dignan. Larry, Comcast is poised to own the smart home space.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, I entered the stories, from a digital transformation, talking about DevOps, and that's because Comcast they've hired some folks from Hewlett Packard, they've hired some folks from Intel. They also bought a company called PowerCloud a few years back, which gave them, the basics for their X5 router, which is interesting in that it gives you a lot of control over the devices in your house. It also connects to their digital home platforms and security and all these other things. And as you're looking at, the digital transformation stuff, it sort of dawns on you like these guys sort of have a pole position for the smart home, because when you look at how Amazon's carpet bombing, your house with Echo devices and all that, you look how Google's doing it with Android and Google Assistant, and, Apple has Siri. The thing I always wonder about is who's going to integrate all this stuff in the house, right? I mean, because everybody's trying to put you in their little ecosystem, whether it's Samsung, Apple, Google, whoever. So you can see how it almost needs like a middleware layer in the smart home. And Comcast is coming at it from basically that vantage point, right? Because it's already in your house as a network provider. Even if you, think that cable TV is gone, you're still going to need a pipe into your house to get all the broadband stuff. So when you look at it, it gets kind of interesting here. And I think the other thing was, I talked to all the execs, got a bunch of demos, and there were a few surprises, like Comcast is really into making hardware, which is kind of trippy, because you don't think of them as a hardware provider, but, they've got their own design language. They don't do a ton of devices, but they're doing enough that matter. And the other thing is they're doing a lot of AI and machine learning and voice recognition, right? So their guides are basically all voice at this point. So you press a button on the remote and you can basically ask it to show you SpongeBob. And I picked SpongeBob because what really kind of opened my eyes to this, because I was a little skeptical about the whole Comcast digital transformation smart home thing a bit. It's when I started talking to my daughter's friends. They're like 10, and they're like, "Yeah, well, we just dropped this one for Comcast because the software is better, and they like the UI and things like that, and they like talking to the remotes." So it gets kind of interesting, right? Because the initial storyline is that cable providers are dead and all that kind of stuff. But you look at it and you kind of see where the ball might be going to, and it's kind of fascinating.
What type of data is Comcast using, and are there privacy concerns?
Yeah, not necessarily privacy concerns. I mean, when you look at, they already have a lot of data on you anyway, right? Because they can see what data is flying in and out, and they have your network. They can kind of throttle it. They can manage traffic. They can do a lot of that. So that's how they've always used to do it, right? So the data previously was really all like system administrator sort of stuff, right? You're managing a network. And now with their new platform, with the X5, and which reaches like 10 million homes, they're adding all these features in terms of parental controls. Like you can turn off Wi-Fi throughout your whole house at dinner time. They have a bunch of apps, things like that. And basically the software is kind of encouraging you to personalize, right? This is what little Johnny's doing on his device. Here's his time limits, blah, blah, blah. Here's the stuff going in your home. Here's what you're using most. Here's what you're not. And, with machine learning, they can basically see the software tweaks they have and see what the impact is based on their call volume, right? So what's interesting is Comcast kind of has their call centers are basically the canary in the coal mine. Like if you roll out some new feature in software and suddenly everybody's like, what the hell's this? And they're making calls. Well, you screwed up. So that's why you have to be agile to fix things and tweak and all that. So The call center is sort of, that's one data point. The other thing's the network data. The other is the personalization you add to it. And then with machine learning and AI, they can kind of start tweaking installation processes and all these things, because the whole game is kind of engineered so you don't have to call them. So as far as the machine learning stuff, it's all anonymous and all that. But what it gets to is they can sort of see a profile between your personalization, the machine learning, and the AI, to the point where if you have a morning routine, at some point, they're going to be able to say, all right, well, here's this person's routine, and just do it, right? Like if your routine is turn on the TV, lift the shades and start the coffee maker, and the platforms all connect, you could just start that. And, I think that's what we're going to get to. Like Amazon's talking about that too with Alexa and routines, where you can have, you can just say, start your AM routine. So it's kind of interesting because they're kind of flying under the radar, and they already have a big customer base to do this.
So much like Amazon's Alexa has become a platform for developers and created new business, are there ways Comcast sees this platform as spurring new business or new innovations?
Well, yeah, they've definitely created an ecosystem for third parties, right? So they're integrating with, Netflix, a bunch of others. What I do wonder about long term though, is this basically a pivot where you keep your, how like the phone company, right? The phone company, the voice is actually free. So what you used to pay for back in the day, you don't pay for now. So I kind of look at this like a defense, maybe the best defense is offense kind of strategy, because let's just say everybody goes over the top and we just start dropping cable bundles out the wazoo, which, there's evidence that's happening now. But if you drop the video and you go, well, I still need these guys for digital home, security, smart home integration, and broadband, well, maybe that average bill stays the same or even goes up. It's a little unclear. So I kind of view this as part defensive in that they have to find new services as people drop cable bundles. On the other hand, I'm not convinced everybody's going to drop their cable bundle, because I don't know if you've looked at your over-the-top bill, but you start adding up, well, Amazon Prime is a little trickier, but, that's a cost. You got your Netflix. You start adding all these other over-the-top providers, and, Disney's coming out with their thing. I'm not really convinced the cable bundle's dead yet. So all these things might be incremental, just based on cost, right? All these video services add up, and they may even add up to be what your cable bill is at some point. So it's a little unclear whether this stuff's incremental or, more defensive about keeping the customer in the fold. But either way, it's a pretty interesting pivot by a really massive company.
It's a great pivot, and you can read Larry's entire story about Comcast's digital transformation by visiting ZDNet.com, and read all of our stories about smart homes, smart devices by visiting Tech Republic and ZDNet.com.
And don't forget CNET.
And don't forget CNET.